He never expected the alien to answer, let alone reveal her secrets. Nathan Carter wasn't one to shy away from the unknown. Being stationed on a distant outpost, light years from Earth, had exposed him to all kinds of strange creatures and cultures. But nothing had prepared him for her. It was supposed to be a routine patrol on the station's outer edge, just another day in the cold vacuum of space. Nathan had grown used to the monotonous hum of the ship's engines and the endless blackness that stretched in every direction. But tonight felt different. His scanner picked up a faint signal, barely noticeable against the usual cosmic noise. At first, Nathan thought it was interference, but the more he focused, the clearer it became. A small ship, damaged and drifting, just outside the station's reach. He'd been part of plenty of rescue operations, but when he docked with the vessel and opened the airlock, he found her. The alien woman was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent glow, colors shifting as she moved. Her large, luminous eyes studied him intensely, making his heart race. She was tall, with a physique almost human, yet more elegant, as if hiding a strength beyond what he could comprehend. But it wasn't just her appearance that captivated him. There was something else, something magnetic. "Are you hurt?" Nathan's voice cracked as he tried to keep his composure. He had encountered countless species before, but none had made him feel like this, fascinated and uneasy at the same time. The alien didn't answer right away. She tilted her head slightly, as if analyzing him. Finally, she spoke, her voice smooth but accented. "I require assistance. My ship was attacked." Nathan swallowed hard, his curiosity piqued. There was something hypnotic about her, an air of mystery tugging at his mind. He gestured for her to follow him into the station, where he could help repair her ship and figure out who, or what, had attacked her. As they walked through the narrow station corridors, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Her eyes darted around, studying everything with unnerving sharpness, and she moved with a graceful fluidity, almost gliding rather than walking. "What's your name?" Nathan asked as they reached the repair bay. She paused, as if considering whether to answer. "You may call me Alicia." "Alicia," Nathan repeated, the name feeling strange on his tongue. "I'm Nathan. So, what happened out there? Who attacked you?" Alicia's gaze flickered, her expression unreadable. "That is complicated." Nathan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Complicated how?" Instead of answering, Alicia turned to the ship, running her fingers over the control panel with a reverent touch. "I need time to repair this," she said softly, her voice distant. "Time and quiet." Nathan's curiosity deepened. Alicia was hiding something important. He had encountered many alien species passing through the station, each with their own secrets. But Alicia was different. There was a weight to her presence, an aura of barely contained power. "What aren't you telling me?" Nathan stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. Alicia's gaze locked with his, and for a moment, the air between them seemed to thicken. She was silent, but her eyes held a challenge, a silent question. "Show me what you're hiding," Nathan pressed, his voice low but firm. "It's not just about your ship, is it?" Alicia's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You are bold, human," she said softly. "Bold and curious. But some things are better left unseen." Nathan's pulse quickened, a mix of excitement and apprehension flooding him. He should have stopped there, but something about Alicia, something about the way she looked at him, made him want to push further. Nathan asked a question before he could stop himself. His voice was steady, but there was a sharp edge of curiosity and challenge in it. Alicia didn't flinch. In fact, her smile widened, though it remained enigmatic. She stepped closer to him, her eyes gleaming with an intensity that made his heart pound. "You do not know what you ask," she whispered, her voice low and dangerous, "but perhaps you should." The air in the room seemed to buzz with tension, the hum of the station's engines barely audible beneath the energy between them. Nathan's breath caught as Alicia raised a hand, her fingers brushing his cheek. Her touch was cool and electric. "I will show you," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "But once you see, there is no turning back." Nathan's heart raced, his body frozen, as he stared into her glowing eyes. His mind screamed for him to stop, to step away, but his body refused. He was too captivated, too enthralled by the unknown. Alicia leaned closer, her breath warm against his skin. "Are you ready, human?" she asked, as the tension between them reached its peak. Nathan knew then that whatever was about to happen would change everything. The moment stretched, thick with anticipation. Alicia's cool fingers left a trail of electric tingles on his skin. Nathan had been curious before, drawn to her otherworldly presence. But now, standing so close, he could feel the raw power she possessed. It simmered beneath the surface, barely contained, like a storm ready to break. "I don't know what I'm asking, do I?" Nathan breathed, his voice trembling. It wasn't just fear quickening his pulse. It was a thrill of the unknown. "But I want to see." Alicia's eyes gleamed with a strange light, her smile slow and knowing. "Humans always desire what they do not understand," she whispered, her voice hypnotic. "And you, Nathan Carter, are no different." Nathan swallowed, his body frozen. He wanted to step back, to distance himself, but he couldn't move. He was trapped by her gaze, by the intensity of the moment, and a part of him didn't want to escape. He needed to know what she was hiding, what power lay beneath her skin, concealed so casually. Alicia studied him for a moment, amused and curious. "Very well," she said softly, "but once you witness what I am, you will never see the world the same way." Before Nathan could respond, Alicia raised her hand, her palm hovering above his chest. The air around them shifted, growing heavy with a strange electric energy. It crackled between them, filling Nathan's ears with a faint hum and sending shivers down his spine. "What are you doing?" he whispered. Alicia didn't answer. Instead, she closed her eyes and the room was suddenly flooded with light, brilliant, blinding light, like the flare of a distant star. Nathan gasped, stumbling back as the force of it hit him. But Alicia remained still, her body radiating an ethereal glow, her skin shimmering like liquid starlight. Nathan's breath caught. This wasn't just a physical transformation. It was something deeper, something elemental. He could feel the power pouring from her, washing over him in waves, leaving him breathless. "You see now," Alicia murmured, her voice echoing in his mind. "I am not what you thought." Nathan blinked, trying to clear his vision. The light was fading, but the sensation lingered, an aftershock of the immense power she had displayed. His legs felt weak as he struggled to process what he had just witnessed. What are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. Alicia opened her eyes and locked her gaze with his. "I am more than flesh and bone, Nathan. My kind, we are connected to the very fabric of the universe. The energy you felt, that is only a fraction of what we are capable of." Nathan's mind spun. He had encountered many alien species during his time on the outpost, but nothing like this. Alicia wasn't just another life form. She was something else, something far more powerful. "You're a weapon," he realized, his voice barely a whisper. "That's why they were after you." Alicia's expression hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Yes, my power is both a gift and a curse. There are those who would use it for destruction, to bend worlds to their will. That is why I fled. I cannot let them control me." Nathan's heart pounded, the weight of her words sinking in. He had thought he was helping a stranded traveler, a victim of some galactic conflict. But this was far bigger than he had imagined. "What are they planning to do with you?" he asked, dread creeping into his voice. Alicia's gaze darkened. "If they capture me, they will harness my power to create weapons capable of destroying entire civilizations. And they will stop at nothing to achieve their goal." Nathan swallowed, the gravity of the situation hitting him. He had been drawn in by curiosity, by the mystery of the alien woman who had crash-landed near his station. But now, he realized he was in the middle of something far more dangerous. "So what do we do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "How do we stop them?" Alicia's expression softened, her eyes searching his face. "You are brave, human, but this is not your fight." Nathan shook his head. "You're wrong. You came to my station. You asked for my help. That makes it my fight now." For a moment, Alicia said nothing, her gaze steady and unreadable. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Very well. But know this. If you stand with me, you will be hunted as I am. There is no turning back." Nathan's pulse quickened. The rational part of his mind screamed at him to walk away, to leave Alicia to her fate and return to the safety of his station. But the part of him that had always sought adventure, that had never shied away from danger, refused to back down. "I'm in," he said, his voice firm. "Whatever it takes. I'll help you." Alicia smiled, this time genuinely. "Then you have my gratitude, Nathan Carter, and my trust." The air between them seemed to hum with renewed energy, the bond between them solidifying in a way Nathan hadn't expected. This was no longer just a rescue mission. It was a war, one that could decide the fate of entire worlds. Alicia reached out, placing her hand gently on his arm. "Before we act, there is something else you need to understand. My power, it's not just for destruction. It's also for creation and connection." Nathan frowned, his heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" Alicia's gaze deepened, her eyes shimmering with an intensity that made his breath catch. "The thing between my legs, as you so boldly asked, is not what you think. It's the source of my power, yes, but it's also the key to unlocking something far greater, something that binds the very fabric of life together." Nathan's curiosity flared again. He had no idea what she meant, but the weight of her words left him breathless. "Show me," he whispered, barely audible. Alicia's smile widened, though there was a sadness in her eyes. "You must be careful what you ask for, human. Once I show you, there will be no turning back." But Nathan was beyond caution now. He had come too far to turn back. "I want to see." Alicia stepped closer, her eyes glowing with a power both terrifying and beautiful. "Then hold on tight, Nathan Carter, for what comes next will change everything." Driven by curiosity and the thrill of the unknown, Nathan's mind raced as Alicia moved closer. Her luminous eyes reflected the dim station lights, and her words hung in the air, thick with meaning. Whatever her power was, it wasn't just about her physical form. It was far beyond anything he could have imagined. He was at the edge of a cliff, staring into the unknown. Every instinct told him to pull back, but something deeper, something primal, urged him forward. "Show me," he whispered again, his voice trembling with anticipation. "I want to understand." Alicia tilted her head, her gaze softening with amusement, and something darker. "You are not like the others, Nathan Carter," she murmured, her voice low and melodic. "Most humans flee from what they do not understand, but you run toward it." Nathan swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Maybe I'm just reckless." Alicia smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But be warned, recklessness can lead to ruin." Her words should have given him pause, but instead, they only fueled his determination. "I'm not afraid," he said, though his heart pounded in his chest. Alicia's eyes shimmered unreadable as she stared at him for a moment. Then, slowly, she raised her hand and placed it on his chest, just above his heart. The touch sent a jolt of energy through Nathan's body, like electricity. His breath hitched, and his pulse quickened as Alicia's fingers pressed lightly against his skin. "You asked for this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Remember that." Before Nathan could respond, the air around them shifted. The space between them crackled with energy, invisible but palpable, like the static before a storm. His skin tingled, and the hairs on his neck stood on end as Alicia's hand moved lower, tracing a path down the center of his chest. His body tense, captivated by the strange, powerful energy that now surrounded them. "You asked what lies between my legs," Alicia said softly, her voice smooth as silk. Now I will show you. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest. He had expected something physical, something alien yet familiar. But what Alicia revealed was far beyond anything he had imagined. She stepped back, and in an instant, the room was filled with a soft, pulsating glow. Her body shimmered with light, her form subtly shifting as the energy within her became visible. It was as though she had unlocked a door, releasing a torrent of raw, untamed power. Nathan watched in awe as the light spread, radiating from her core and wrapping around her like a second skin. It was mesmerizing, but also dangerous. "This is my power," Alicia whispered. "It is not just physical. It is the essence of creation and destruction." Nathan's breath caught as he tried to process what he was seeing. The energy that surrounded her wasn't just light. It was alive, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. It was as if the air around them had charged with potential, waiting to be unleashed. What is this?" Nathan asked, his voice shaky. Alicia's gaze softened, but her eyes still burned with intensity. "It is the source of my strength. The energy that flows through me is ancient, older than your planet, older than the stars themselves. It is what makes me who I am." Nathan swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. He had expected something strange, something alien, but this was beyond comprehension. He had asked for the truth, and now that he was facing it, he wasn't sure he could handle it. "And you can control it?" he asked, barely whispering. Alicia's lips pressed into a thin line. "Sometimes. But there are moments when the power is too great, when it overwhelms even me. That is why I am hunted. Those who seek to control me believe they can harness this energy for their purposes, but they do not understand the danger." Nathan's pulse quickened, a cold knot of fear forming in his stomach. "What kind of danger?" Alicia's eyes darkened, a flicker of sadness in them. "This energy, this power, it is not meant for war. It is not meant to destroy, but in the wrong hands, it could unravel the very fabric of the universe. That is why I must remain free, why I cannot let them take me." Nathan's mind raced with the implications of her words. This wasn't just about Alicia. This was about something far bigger, something that could change everything. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Alicia's gaze met his, her expression unreadable. "You must decide, Nathan Carter. You asked for the truth, and now you have it. But this is not your burden to carry. You can walk away." Nathan's heart pounded. He had come too far, seen too much. There was no turning back now. "I'm not walking away," he said firmly. "Whatever this is, whatever it means, I'm with you." For a moment, Alicia said nothing, then slowly, her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "Thank you, Nathan. But understand this. What comes next will not be easy. There will be those who seek to destroy us, to take this power and use it for their own ends. We will be hunted." Nathan nodded, his resolve hardening. "I don't care. I'm not letting them take you." Alicia's gaze softened, and for the first time since they had met, Nathan saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "Then we stand together." The air around them seemed to settle, the crackling energy fading into a quiet hum. But Nathan could still feel the weight of what had just happened, the enormity of the power Alicia held, and the danger that came with it. They were no longer just two people in the vastness of space. They were something more, something bigger. And whatever came next, Nathan knew he couldn't face it alone. She spoke softly, her voice breaking the stillness like a ripple in a pond. "Does what you've seen frighten you?" Nathan swallowed hard, shaking his head even though his hands were still trembling. "It's not fear," he said quietly, "at least not in the way you think." Alicia tilted her head, narrowing her eyes as if studying him. "Then what is it, human?" Nathan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I guess I didn't expect it to feel this real. I've seen strange things, worked with dozens of alien species, but this is something else." Alicia's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "You're not the first to be overwhelmed by my nature, but you are one of the few who hasn't run from it. Nathan's heart skipped a beat at the quiet praise in her voice. I don't run from things that matter. For a moment, Alicia said nothing, her gaze softening as she studied his face. Then, slowly, she stepped closer, her presence filling the small space between them. What you saw, she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper, is only a fraction of what I am. There's more, much more that I haven't shown you. My kind, we are tied to the very fabric of the universe. We are born from the stars, and we carry that power within us. Nathan's breath caught as he listened, his mind struggling to comprehend the enormity of her words. He had known she was different, known there was something special about her, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. And you're hunted because of that power, he said quietly, because they want to use you. Alicia nodded, her eyes darkening. Yes, there are those who would wield my kind as weapons. They believe they can control us, bend us to their will. But they don't understand that the power we hold is not meant for war. It's meant for something far greater. Nathan's heart pounded, the weight of her words settling over him like a heavy cloak. What is it meant for? Alicia's gaze flickered, and for a moment, she seemed almost hesitant. Creation, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Connection. We are the bridge between worlds, between life and death. We are the keepers of balance. But when that balance is disturbed, destruction follows. Nathan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had thought he understood the stakes, but now, standing there in the dim light of the station, he realized this was far bigger than he had ever imagined. Alicia wasn't just some refugee fleeing a distant war. She was something far more powerful, far more dangerous. Yet, there was something beautiful about her too, something that drew him in despite the danger. He had seen it in the way she moved, the way she spoke. There was a grace to her, a quiet strength that made him want to stand by her, to protect her, even though he knew he was out of his depth. I'm with you, he said again, his voice steady despite the storm of emotion swirling inside him. Whatever happens next, I'm not walking away. Alicia's eyes softened, her lips curving into a small, genuine smile. You are brave, Nathan Carter. Perhaps too brave. Nathan chuckled softly, though his heart was still racing. Maybe, but you don't seem like the type to turn away help. Alicia's smile widened, though there was a sadness in it now. No, I'm not. But you must understand, if you stay with me, you will be hunted too. There will be no safe harbor for you, no place to hide from those who seek to control me. Nathan's pulse quickened at her words, the reality of the situation sinking in. He had known from the moment she arrived that there was danger, but now it was clear this wasn't just about her. It was about him too. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. I'm not afraid, he said quietly. I've faced danger before. Alicia's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand in hers. Her touch was cool, but there was warmth in the gesture, a connection that sent a shiver down Nathan's spine. You have much to learn, Nathan Carter, she said softly, and the path ahead will not be easy. But if you are truly with me, we will face it together. Nathan's heart raced as her words sank in. There was something about the way she spoke that made him feel like this was only the beginning. He had asked for the truth, and now that he had it, there was no turning back. For a moment, they stood in silence, their hands still intertwined. The weight of the universe seemed to hang between them, the vastness of space pressing in on all sides. But in that moment, Nathan felt something he hadn't expected, hope. Whatever came next, he wasn't facing it alone. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the station, pulling them both from the quiet moment. Nathan's heart skipped a beat as he glanced toward the control panel. It was a security alert. Someone had breached the outer perimeter. They found us, Alicia whispered, her voice tense. Nathan's blood ran cold as he moved toward the console, his fingers flying over the controls. The screen flickered to life, showing the grainy image of a small ship hovering just outside the station. His breath caught as he saw the insignia emblazoned on the side, the mark of the hunters. "They're here," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "We need to move. Now." Alicia's eyes darkened, the quiet strength in her gaze returning. "Then we fight." Nathan's pulse quickened as he grabbed his gear, his mind racing. There was no time to think, no time to plan. The hunters were here, and if they wanted to survive, they'd have to face them head-on. "Are you ready for this?" Nathan asked, glancing at Alicia as he strapped on his weapon. Alicia's lips curved into a small, dangerous smile. "I was born ready, Nathan Carter." The station was bathed in the red glow of emergency lights, casting long shadows along the walls as alarms blared in the background. Nathan's heart pounded as he grabbed his weapon and turned to Alicia. She stood poised, her eyes narrowed, her body radiating a calm, deadly intensity. The hunters had found them, and there was no more time for questions, only action. "We need to get to the control room," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "If we can seal off the lower decks, we might be able to trap them." Alicia nodded, her expression unreadable, as she moved with fluid grace, following Nathan through the narrow corridors. The station felt smaller now, the walls closing in as the danger mounted. Every step they took, Nathan's mind raced with possibilities. They were outnumbered, possibly outgunned, and the hunters wouldn't stop until they had Alicia. "We can't let them get their hands on you," Nathan muttered, gripping his weapon tightly. "If they do, it's over." Alicia's eyes flickered with a strange light as she glanced at him, her lips curving into a small, sad smile. "I know," she said softly, "but I won't let them. They will not control me." They reached the control room, and Nathan immediately started working at the console, his fingers flying over the controls to seal the bulkheads. But before he could finish, the door behind them hissed open and the first hunter stepped into the room. Nathan reacted instantly, raising his weapon and firing a shot that barely missed the hunter's helmet. The hunter moved quickly, too quickly, and in the blink of an eye, he was on Nathan, knocking the weapon from his hands with brutal efficiency. Pain shot up Nathan's arm as he struggled to regain his footing. "Nathan," Alicia's voice cut through the chaos, but before she could move to help, two more hunters entered the room, their weapons raised. Nathan felt the cold edge of a blade press against his throat. For a moment, he thought it was over. Then something incredible happened. Alicia's body shimmered, her skin glowing with an intense, pulsating light. The air around her vibrated with energy, and in a split second, she unleashed it. A wave of raw power exploded from her, sending the hunters crashing against the walls, rattling the entire station. Nathan gasped, frozen in place as he watched Alicia's display of power. She stood at the center of the room, her chest heaving, her eyes glowing with otherworldly intensity. The hunters lay unconscious at her feet, their bodies crumpled like discarded toys. But the room hadn't just fallen silent, it had shifted. The energy Alicia had unleashed wasn't just raw power. It was something more. Nathan could feel it in the air, a strange, almost magnetic pull that seemed to connect him to her in ways that defied explanation. His skin tingled, his pulse quickening as the energy settled around them like a thick, invisible fog. "Alicia," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "What just happened?" Alicia turned to him, her expression unreadable, her eyes still faintly glowing. "I warned you, Nathan," she said softly. "This power is more than you can understand. It connects us, binds us in ways neither of us can control." Nathan's heart raced, his mind spinning as he tried to process her words. He had seen her power before, but this was different. It wasn't just energy or light. It was something deeper, something that went beyond the physical. "What do you mean it binds us?" he asked, his voice shaky. Alicia stepped closer, her gaze locked with his. "When I released that energy, it did more than just stop the hunters. It connected us, Nathan. You and I. We are now linked. The power that flows through me now flows through you. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. He could feel it. The subtle hum of energy pulsing beneath his skin, coursing through his veins like a living thing. It wasn't painful, but it was intense, overwhelming in its magnitude. And what does that mean? Nathan asked, barely whispering. Alicia's expression softened, and for the first time, Nathan saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. It means that our fates are now intertwined, she said quietly. What happens to me happens to you. Nathan's mind raced, his thoughts a tangled mess of fear and confusion. He had wanted to help her, to protect her, but now the danger wasn't just about her anymore. It was about both of them. They were connected in ways he couldn't begin to understand, and the consequences of that connection were unknown. We need to leave, Alicia said suddenly, snapping him out of his thoughts. More will come. The hunters won't stop until they have me. Nathan nodded, his body still buzzing with the strange energy that now linked him to her. Where do we go? Alicia's eyes darkened, and for a moment she looked almost sad. There is no safe place, Nathan. Not anymore. But we must try. We must run. Nathan swallowed hard, his pulse racing. There was no time for questions, no time to process what had just happened. They were out of options, out of time. The only thing left to do was survive. Then we run, Nathan said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. We'll find a way to stop them. Together, Alicia nodded, and for a brief moment, her hand brushed against his. The touch was fleeting, but the spark of energy between them was undeniable. Nathan could feel the power that now connected them, and despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, there was something strangely comforting about it. He wasn't alone in this. They were in this together. Let's go, Alicia said softly, her voice filled with quiet determination. Nathan grabbed his gear, his mind still spinning with the weight of what had just happened. The station was no longer safe. The hunters would come, and when they did, they would stop at nothing to capture Alicia. But now Nathan realized they wouldn't just be after her. They'd be after both of them. They moved through the dim corridors, the station falling silent behind them. Nathan's thoughts drifted to the connection they now shared. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't just about survival. It was something deeper, something that bound them in ways he couldn't yet understand. But one thing was certain. Whatever came next, whatever dangers they faced, they would face it together. And in that connection, in the raw, unbreakable bond between them, Nathan found strength.